Hi and welcome to Nimble.handmade. My name is Bia and I'm coming to you from Belgium. In this 12th episode of the Yarny Tales, I would like to take you on a trip to Yarny Land, and of course I would like to tell you about what is on my needles, what flew off my needles, about the workshops and many other yarny stuff. So take something nice to drink or to eat and maybe a project. Let's dive in. The first one I would like to talk to you about is, of course, the one I am wearing, which is the Magnolia Bloom by Camilla. Um, I started this project at the beginning of the year and I made it out of, let me check, Plötulopi, which is an Icelandic unspun yarn. It's Icelandic wool, and I'm just gonna put that down because it crackles a lot. It's an Icelandic wool yarn, and it was quite a challenge. um, Maybe you have seen my former vlogs about it. It's a yarn that is unspun, so that means that well, this is a solution I found for it, but I have a small ball of yarn lying around here. As you can see, it comes apart very easily. It attaches to one another very easily as well, which means that you don't have many ends to weave in. But, well, the fact that it comes apart very easily makes it harder to work with, especially because you have the bubbles here uh, on the lace part, on the yoke of the sweater, um, and the bubbles make it quite hard with the unspun yarn. So what I did, I put it on a yarn. What is it? I don't know how you call it. Um, but anyway, it turns around on its own. So it's the top part is separate from the bottom, and it makes sure that your yarn turns around smoothly, so that you don't have to force it to come away from the ball or the plate of yarn, because it's a plate, not a ball of yarn or a skein of yarn. I enjoyed it in the end, especially when you get used to knitting with it. But in the beginning, I must say it was quite hard to work with. It's a dual fleece Icelandic wool, which means that there are hairs uh, entangled in the wool, which makes it stronger than just the fleece of the wool. Um, but still, about the pattern, I really like the pattern. It's well written. The only thing I changed is I did lengthen the sleeves a little bit and the body, because I think it's a bit more elegant when it's a bit longer, and I had plenty of yarn. I must have done a miscalculation or something, because I'm still left with a lot of yarn. And well, I'm getting used to working with it, so I will work with it in the future. Maybe I will combine it with some other yarn so that it doesn't break as easily as it does. Um, but anyway, I could make it longer, and I did. So that's out of the way. And um, The other thing that I wanted to mention is that she also has other patterns that are Magnolia patterns for a t-shirt, I think, which has the lace part at the top, but there's also one which has the lace part around the belly, and I thought, well, maybe that's not that elegant, but as it does something, it cinches in the right places, uh, and it falls quite elegantly. So yeah, maybe I might do another Magnolia Bloom in another yarn for summer or spring. I'm not sure yet. To be continued. Now, the other project that I started around the same time as I started this one is the sweater number 20 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and that's not finished yet. It's far from finished. In fact, what I have is the upper part. So this is the back part. I'm gonna try and show it here. And then these are the two fronts. So this is how it should go. So what I did is I did cast on the part for the neck, and then I did increase till I had the entire back, and then on the increases I took up some stitches for the front panels that are now, they need to come together here, and then I will make this small part just under the collar, and then I can attach the back and the front and knit in the round to make the entirety of the body. Now I'm gonna take this off because it's a bit hot. I'm sorry, it's just sticking on the table. It wasn't that easy to make a smooth transition between the back and the front panels. I'm just gonna take a little more. I'm just gonna show you. I hope it's visible. I had to redo it twice because it's indicated in the pattern that you need to insert your needle into the stitches, and I was quite surprised by what she meant with that. Normally I pick up stitches between other stitches, but that was not what was required. And the stitches, of course, they lie the other way around. So normally you have a V, and now you had to see it from the other side. So you really need to put your needle inside the heart of the stitch, and then pull up the loop, and then you have quite a ridge at the inside of the sweater. I'm gonna make some more noise, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna show you the ridge. Normally I don't have a seam that is that big, but for this sweater it is. I presume it is because you have the increases at the same time. And of course you need to wiggle around these increases. So I presume that was the problem. Anyway, that's solved now. Another thing that I noticed is that it's quite hard to knit this sweater. It's quite hard on your hands, and I was wondering why it was. Maybe it's because there are so many cables and you need to do cables in about every 2 rows there are cables. But then I noticed that this yarn, it's the Novita Isoveri. It's a sock yarn, and it's not a very flexible yarn. As you can see, there is not so much stretch in it. I'm just going to see if I can well, it's 75% wool and 25% polyamide. So that's a true sock yarn, of course, and a merino would be much bouncier than this one. So I think that's also why it's harder on the hands. And I was thinking about putting in putting in this away for summer because it's not a spring color. The original is in this beigey color. I, of course, had this one in mind when I wanted to make the sweater. But, of course, that was not ideal to make it. So, yeah, I was pondering about a hibernation for this sweater, but I think it's not a good idea to stop in the middle of this project and then pick it all up at the end of summer because your gauge can change, and yeah, you sometimes can notice when you put away a project for a long time, even if you block it, you sometimes notice that yeah, something changes about your knitting. So I'm still wondering what I'm going to do, but it might be that I knit the entire body and then I leave the sleeves for autumn. Not sure yet, but it might be because I still have another cable project, not a big one, and it's almost done. But still, I have the Cider House socks. And these are by Summerlee. And I'm knitting them with the Yabol from Lang, which is just a regular sock yarn, 25% polyamide and 75% wool. This one is knit from the cuff down. I really like this cuff. It gives it some sporty vibes, and this is very classic. It reminds me a bit of a Wimbledon. It has some Wimbledon vibes, I think. And then there is like this strong heel. I normally don't do this version of a heel, but it's in the pattern, and I thought, well, maybe I should try give it a go and just see how it works. And I must say, the fit is really it fits really well. It's not blocked yet. I will give it a block and then we'll see how it turns out. But I think it will fit really snug and nice on my foot. And of course, here I have the cables on both sides. Here on the foot you only do cables on the front part of the foot, and then it's a lot faster. She also has a version where she knits the a slouchy version and then no cables on the foot. And it's beautiful as well because she uses a really nice fade, but uh, I noticed that when her shoe didn't come up all the way to the end of the cables, so there is this gap of just regular stockinette stitch, and then the cables stop. And I didn't like that very much, so I inserted the cables, but they might be a little bit too warm for summer, and I thought about wearing this with like these 3/4 jeans, these white baggy jeans, and then a sneaker, and then these ones a little bit slouchy. But yeah, we'll see. first we need to finish this, of course. I also didn't use a cable needle for this one. I used a stitch marker to make the cables. And then I also started a new sock. Couldn't wait. It's just a regular vanilla sock. But I like the motif and the colors. It's the Super Socks bamboo yarn by Lang. And I didn't realize I had bought bamboo yarn because I was looking for a cotton yarn, in fact, to make some summer socks. And well, I didn't find it because all the cotton yarns I touched were quite hard, and I wondered if they would give a nice fabric. They and well, and a fabric that would stretch enough, because the fabric you make with sock yarn and that you knit yourself is of course not as stretchy as the fabric of a store-bought sock. So when it would be even less stretchy, I was worried that it would be like, wearing just a bag around your foot. So if you know anything about sock yarn, and if you could give me a tip on a good summery sock yarn, I would really appreciate that. But it turns out that I already found a yarn that is going in that direction, because this one has 50% wool, 30% viscose, which is bamboo, and 15% polyamide, which is for the strength of cords. I always thought that viscose was eucalyptus, but it seems to be bamboo. So I'm quite curious how this is going to wear. But up till now, it's turning out quite nicely. Well, the fabric I knitted is turning out quite nicely. So, to be continued. Perhaps I should tell you, I am trying to film this with the rear camera of my iPhone to get a better quality than the front camera of the phone, and use a little mirror to see what I'm filming. And it's quite weird to me that I have to look into these. It seems to be two eyes of my camera, the lens of my camera, of course. I hope I'm doing it well, and I do hope you're not offended if I'm. It doesn't appear to be that I'm not looking at you, because I try to, but well, camera is staring at me weirdly today, so it's all quite new, all trying out new things every time to get some better quality and to improve. So thanks for hanging in there and appreciating it. So next project. Next one is my soul soothing squares blanket. I already have 33 squares now. And the intention is to make a blanket that is 5 squares in width and 7 squares in length. And for that, I used scrap yarns, acrylic scrap yarns, and in the middle I used all yellowy, orangey tones, and then there are pinks and purples, and then you have greens and blues around. And I used that that sequence throughout the entire throughout, well, just in every square. That's what I intended to say. And I hope that it will give a more neutral look to the blanket, although it's not made with all the same colors, of course, because it's scrap yarns, and I still have lots of it left, so there will be a sister blanket, I think, or a brother blanket. I don't know how you call it. So as soon as I have 35, I will start attaching them to one another. I will, well, will make a border to every square, and with that border, I will attach it to the next one and the next one, etc. And I will probably use a beige yarn for that, so a neutral, to make it even more soul soothing. I call it soul soothing blanket because I have migraines, and there is a time during the migraines that you can't do anything, but there is a time when you can do just a tiny little bit, and your head is not still working, still not working, but your hands already can, and that's the time when I can do a square. And then I'm so happy that I can do something. It gives some kind of purpose. So that's my soul soothing blanket. And I'm really looking forward to finishing it, in fact, because it's, yeah, I want to see how the colors coordinate and how it all comes together. And so I'm looking forward to putting it all on the table and attaching it to one another, and yeah, see how it works. And then I'm going to put them back and take this one. And this one is the knitwork that jumped into my knitting bag by accident. I'm a big fan of gals and mals, and this one is the Genres Make Along by Two of Wands. So it's designed by Alexandra Tavel, and this is the storyteller wrap. Um, her designs are magnificent, and she made this one, which is a storyteller wrap, and she also has an accompanying version in crochet, which is the book club wrap. So it's similar. It's not the same, of course, because it's an entirely different craft, but it's similar. And for every shawl, she has an entire story behind it. So in this shawl, she had, well, I'm just going to show you. These are the books that are stacked in a rack. And these are all the characters that come into play. And then you can see that the pages are lying open. And here is where the drama unfolds. I think the drama unfolds here with all the ends that still need to be woven in. But she does a magnificent job at designing and thinking about all these, the entirety of the project. It's so detailed. It's really magnificent. Even if you are not going to make it, just have a look. It's really worth it. Now, for this one, I just have one remark that I would do differently if I would make it again. Is that for this part, because she has this Facebook group which is Crew of Wands. So crew, like a crew, like a crew for a rock band. Um, this one is made, so these dots are made by skipping a stitch every time, which means that for 2 rows you stretch a stitch, uh, which makes it a very dense fabric. And she says in the pattern to not knit this tightly, to knit very loosely, which I try to do. But I noticed in the Facebook group that some people already finished the shawl, and that the part that comes beneath this part, um, well, it's a bit bumpy because this part cinches it in a bit, and I think that's a pity. So if I would redo it, I would go up a needle size. This is an 8mm needle. I would use a 9mm needle just for this part. And now I am thinking about switching to a 7mm needle to make the last part. So the last part is repeating this, and then I think it's just a border in garter stitch. So, but this is of course, because it has a lace detail, it's a bit wider on itself, on its own. So I'm just wondering what to do there. I think it will also stretch out when you block it. I will steam block it. I also steam block this one because it has these bubbles. I forgot to tell that I did steam blocking, and now that I prefer it for this one, um, I do prefer it to wet blocking because of the bubbles, of course. When you steam block it, you just steam over you lay it out, you steam over the fabric, you leave it to dry, and then you go to the next part that you want to steam, which make that the fabric doesn't weigh down on the back of your work, which means that the bubbles will stick out even in the back of your work. But of course, I will need to wash it sometime, so I will have to turn the work several times during the time it is drying, of course, on the rack, to pick out the bubbles. I'm sure I will do that because the bubbles give it just that little touch. Although they're not all even, and in the beginning I was kind of disturbed by it, that they weren't even. But in the end, I'm fine with it, and I want them sticking out. So okay, I will have them sticking out one way or the other. Now coming back to this one, yeah, I don't have much to knit anymore. Just a few rows of this color work, and then it's just, I think, the white, and then it's finished, and then we can steam block again. It's an enjoyable knit. It's not much to knit anymore, but it's quite some stitches. But it goes fast. It's an 8mm needle, so I might even consider knitting a gift knit. Oh, once again, this one after I've finished this. So it's a really enjoyable knit, and if you see on the Facebook group the different colors that are made by all people, it's really it's really something. Then another make along. I know, I'm a sucker for make alongs. I made last time I made a small video or episode about the 15 favorites I have for spring, and the Lanima shawl was one of the items on my favorites list, and it landed in my knitting bag. It's not, I don't make it with the indicated yarn. I make it with something I still have in stash because I couldn't really find the yarn here. But I think it will work out fine with what I have as well. But it will turn out totally different from what is in the pattern. So the Lanima shawl is a pattern by Julia Maria Hegenbart, also known as fijnmotoriek.blogspot on Instagram. She has beautiful patterns, and she also made one for hobby, I think. It's a Spencer or a vest, and I really like the design. So if I can find it, I will insert a picture. But I am making mine with Silk Hair by Lana Grossa, which I have still left from a cardigan I made. Some Brillino by Lana Grossa, which is a shiny yarn, and then some hand painted yarn by a Flemish dyer from Leuven, which is painted sheep. And this is a sock yarn, 75 merino and 25% nylon. And when it's wound up, it looks like this. So what I did is I started, so the design has six stripes. Can I call it stripes? Bands. It has 6 bands of lace, and in between there are similar stripes. So the stripes in between are, I am knitting with the Brillino and the Silk Hair. You can see it. It gives it a little bit of a shiny effect, and then the uneven stripes. So 1, 3, and 5. I knit with the Silk Hair. It's not blocked, so it's not very easy to see the motif. And then this one is even harder, of course. The even bands, so 2, 4, and 6, so the last one, I will knit with the hand-dyed yarn. I only have just a small piece. I'm just gonna try and make you see this. Hope it's visible. And it gives a little a serious speckle, because you can see that there is some brownish orangey tones, and then there is this darker green as well. So there is some speckling in the yarn, which I think will make it more lively. One thing I regret, and that is totally my fault, it was indicated in the pattern to use a 3.5mm needle. I am using the Lantern Moon 3.5mm needle, and for the silk hair it's fine, of course, because you can use something from a 2mm needle to a 6mm needle to knit lace with silk hair or kid silk. But for this one, it's indicated that you can knit it with a 2 to 4 millimeter needle, but I think it would have been better if I used a 3 millimeter needle or even a 2.5, because it would be more compact. So the stockinette parts of the lace would be more compact and would show off the speckles of the yarn even more, I think, because it would be less of a see-through yarn. But anyway, I think it will work out the way it is, and maybe the yarn will bloom a little bit when I block it. So I'm not going to go back because it's not an easy pattern. I don't know. Well, I presume it's because I've already knit a lot of English patterns as well that are the same way. Normally, a lace pattern in the way I have read most of the lace patterns I have read, to state it that way, is that you can see the lace in the pattern because you can the how shall I put it, the the pattern is written in a way that you can see the right side of your work translated in the diagram. That means that, like for example, when you have a white spot, it means that you knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. So you have, like, you know that that's stockinette stitch. And for example, when you have um, a horizontal stripe, that means that you purl on the right side and knit on the wrong side. That's not the case in this pattern. In this pattern, every stitch is designed the way it is knit at the moment you are reading the line. So a purl stitch on the wrong side is the horizontal stripe, and that was confusing me, and it still is confusing me. So I look at the pictures a lot. They do have tutorials, but I think it really is quite hard to read. Perhaps when you are new to knitting lace, it's easier to read, but for me, it's not. So, yeah. Anyway, I do think it's tremendously well written pattern because um, the pattern goes all the way. And what I mean by that is a lot of patterns are designed that the lace, for example, you increase and then, well, this piece, when we just knit stockinette stitch because it's the last piece, and well, it's well, they don't mind that it's just stockinette, and in the next part we will start calculating the lace, and then we will start knitting lace, and then this part will be in stockinette. And but this one isn't. The lace pattern goes all the way, so you can see even here that it goes all the way. So that is, well, that's really a lot of work and a lot of calculating, and that is really well written. What is not so well written is the legend, do you call that in it? Well, it's this description of how the stitches are knit. So you have the diagram, and then, for example, the white box that says knit on the right side. Well, it's not well indicated, I think, in my opinion, what you need to do for every stitch. And the abbreviations are not completely explained, but they are explained in the uh, in the tutorials. So you have to make a mix of it and find out and learn new things, and oh, it's an adventure on its own. I will surely continue with this adventure. That's about all I had to tell you this time, I think. Still remaining is the workshops, of course. This Saturday I will be giving the Start to Crochet Granny Bag workshop at Wool Study for the people who want to start crocheting the perfect granny square. And then there is the Easy Breezy Scarflet on Saturday the 17th and 24th of May in Mechelen, 10 to 12:30 at Wool Study. And that's for people who want to take up crocheting, or people who want to take it up again, want to go through all the steps and all the stitches in the first part of the workshop. And then the second part is where the questions come, where we learn to increase and decrease, where we do the finishing of the entire project, and well, where we explore what you can do next. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please give me a thumbs up, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. Until next time, greetings from Belgium. Bye!